Oh, hold on one second. No. Where's the haircut commie? Yeah, no. Freedom fro, baby. I'm growing it out. I'm not going to cut my hair for a while.
Commie.
I like it. The only problem is like you get old and then you have a lot of gray hair in your afro, and then it doesn't look quite as cool as it did when you were, a ripped 16-year-old with streaks through your hair because you were living free and living wild.
How times?
Oh yeah, what a difference 18 months make, people. Check it out. Oh yeah,
look crazy.
18 months ago. That's what I looked like 18 months ago.
Yeah, out of here. People say, Viva, I liked it when it was shorter. I said it's the freedom fro, and it's not going anywhere. I did say I would cut it when I found freedom, but I've grown to love it. I was looking for an intro for this show that would not get us immediately demonetized and potentially booted from YouTube. And I have 2 clips to play of Chrissie Mayr, or at least one of Chrissie Mayr, one that's related to the discussion of the night. I'll play those when we go over to Rumble. We're going to last 5 minutes on YouTube, and then I'm going to end it right away and go over to Rumble exclusively. The link is in the pinned comment in the chat, or at least it should be. You may remember Chrissie Mayr from such podcasts as Viva and Barnes. Barnes might not be coming tonight. Viva and Barnes interviewed Chrissie October 2021. The world's gotten slightly worse since then. Maybe it's going to get better. Maybe it's the dark before the dusk, or whatever the heck that expression is. Chrissie, I'm bringing you in. Let's do this. 3. Don't pick. She's picking her nose. She's not picking her nose. Chrissie, how goes the battle,
Hello.
man?
Oh my God. I can't believe your hair was so short.
I was watching that interview. It's a year and a half ago. Can you imagine where the world has gone in the last year and a half? Like,
flew by. It's really flown by. And just when you think it can't get worse, oh, it does. It gets weirder and weirder.
We are going to get into the weirdness tonight. We by the way, everybody, we have a hard 1 hour. Chrissie's got another out. I saw your schedule. It's ridiculous. Barnes might not make it. So everyone, where's Barnes? Where's Barnes? He might not come. Chrissie, for those who missed our first interview, we're not going to go into your childhood, public schooling, your life as a young adult. But 30,000 foot overview. And then after the intro, we're ending on Rumble, YouTube, and going over to Rumble.
I love it.
Who are you?
Oh, you want my elevator pitch? Okay, so I'm a stand-up comedian. I thought I wanted to be a news reporter, went to school for media studies, communication, got a bachelor's, really, really thought I was going to be a reporter. Had an internship at Dateline when I was in college. I was working with Stone Phillips. I was like, oh, he is the most boring individual possible. Then I got an internship at Conan when he was still in New York City. Then I realized, okay, I love comedy. I don't know what I'm going to do, but these are my people. Then I did 5 years of improv at the UCB Theater and the Magnet Theater, did a one-woman show, and then started stand-up comedy maybe like 13 years ago. And then, just kind of floundered, did open mics, and then really started to like put my foot on the gas maybe like 6 years ago or so. And all throughout this time, I have day jobs. I'm working at least 1 or 2 jobs this whole time. I'm using my vacation days to do road gigs. I'm doing, podcasts at night kind of thing, just really trying to balance the 2 worlds all the while. And then, my most recent job, is in corporate media. Had that job for 6 years. During that time period, I become like red pilled. I become an out Trump voter. I am at January 6th. All of these things for which my boss really wants to fire me for, but can't until the pandemic. We go remote. Finally, we all have to get jabbed to get back into the building. That I wouldn't do. So I finally lost my job December of 21 for not getting the jab. And I was considered voluntarily resigned. Didn't qualify for any kind of like unemployment, no insurance, just like, okay, bye. So happy to have done that because I just feel like I was getting busier, and it was very clear that my boss wanted me out for political reasons anyway, because he read an article that I was on Megyn Kelly's podcast saying that January 6th was really chill. He wanted to fire me for that, but I was like, no, I took vacation days, so you can't technically.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, in your professional life, but what you're describing, like when did politics start infiltrating and souring relationships?
They really cranked it up for Trump. That was the first time I saw magazines like Glamour or Cosmo, like convincing young women to break up with their Trump voting boyfriends. That was the first time I really saw that promoted. The pandemic only intensified that by being like, yeah, like break up or don't talk to your unvaccinated family members. And it was just really intense. But for me, like, yeah, I think it was really Trump, because I didn't like him at first. I voted for Jill Stein, and then just over the years hearing fake news, and then it just clicked one day and I was like, oh my God, it's all propaganda. Well, I'll be darned.
How does that type of revelation impact your comedy? You're doing stand-up comedy now for, I don't know, if it's not a decade, it's pretty darn close.
It impacts it a lot, because I started out stand-up like, really, I should have become a lot more successful, because I was like a single woman living in Brooklyn, liberal, Democrat, hated my dad. Like, I had all the things a female stand-up comic should have to be successful. And then I just, I'm just chugging along. And then I go in a year, I go from hosting a monthly show at the Stonewall Inn, which is a gay LGBT like landmark. That's where the Stonewall Riots started. I go from hosting a show there to hosting a weekly show on Compound Media. I just couldn't do both of them. But my sense of humor didn't change, nothing. And I lost all these friends and working relationships, because I went from monthly show at gay bar to weekly show at supposed right-wing network. Anthony Cumia's network, who was best known for Opie and Anthony, mostly in like tri-state area, like New York, Jersey, hugely successful. Like, then they kind of both broke up. Anthony Cumia is one of like the OG kind of canceled comedians. And that happened. And then he started Compound Media, like I think in 2016. And then I came on that network in 2019.
You're at you're doing a once a month at the Stonewall Club, which is the Stonewall Riots, which was, when was it? It was in the late 60s?
1969. Yeah.
And that was, gay people fighting or rioting for gay rights back in the day. I do wonder what they would think of the current movement in terms of how it's morphed into something that apparently many people of the gay and lesbian community don't want to be a part of, and then they get called TERFs for it. But
oh yeah, I'm sure they weren't at Stonewall fighting for the right to twerk in front of elementary school kids. I'm sure that wasn't even on the list of goals.
Some people, Chrissie, would say it was just on the end of the slippery slope. Yeah, okay. And now we're living it. You know what? Like, before we even get there, let's just go ahead and end this on YouTube, and we're gonna really get into it on Rumble. So the link is there, people.
Yeah, let's
come
get
on over
weird.
to Rumble. Oh, 3, 2, 1 off of YouTube now. Chrissie, I've been asking a lot of people this question. Like, you've lived through it in a more direct manner than me and many others. When did LGB, lesbian, gay, bi, when did it become LGBT, LGBTQ? When did it go from gay rights to we want to twerk in front of your kids? When did drag shows for kids become a priority for Democrats and for purportedly the LGB community? And I don't think it is for them, but when did that become the issue, like in your transition of comedy?
I remember it was while I was still hosting at Stonewall. I just remember there was one Pride summer where it was so obvious that how corporate it all went. I was like, oh wow, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase. Like, I was seeing every single company had like a rainbow logo all of a sudden. I was like, yeah, it looks like you guys made it. Like, looks like, it appears that you guys are not having trouble getting hired everywhere. Like, y'all can get married, y'all can adopt, like, you made it. And then somehow like Drag Queen Story Hour became, I don't know whose idea that was. It feels like very calculated to kind of start pushing that. And then it seems like just a lot of parents' blood started to boil. And then you have these mom groups that start becoming more outspoken. And then you have basically like the policy revving up in places like California. You have these basically like trans utopian states popping up. Like, I think Colorado is one now, California, where you can just go and get a trans surgery and your parents don't even need to know. And it's hard to not be conspiracy minded about it, but you can see a very clear correlation between, like, if a kid has enough agency to decide to have a very permanent adult sexual surgery on themselves, like it's conceivable that they could also then have the agency to consent to an adult sexual relationship. But that's where a lot of people go, oh yeah, this just leads to the normalization of pedophilia. And it's like, it's really hard to make an argument against that.
It's not, well, it's not even. I mean, I remember back in the day, it seems like a decade ago, and it might very well have been, but you had these websites normalizing it. I think you had the minor attracted person term. Someone's gonna have to fact check me for when that term started taking off. But it's the natural and necessary evolution. If it's that someone can just, alter their bodies because they're mature enough, well, they can do what they want with their bodies if that means having relations with an adult person. And it'll get there. It'll get there because the parodies have become the headlines. But so okay, now, and by the way, so we're seeing all of this happen at the same time as COVID. When you lose your job, first of all, someone says, I bet you're glad you held your ground. Explain to the world what that feels like. I didn't have a job to keep or lose, to not, if I decided not to get vaccinated, and my retrospectively stupid decision, touch wood, I've survived it, but it was not based on that type of pressure, but maybe other type of pressure. When you face the reality that you're going to lose your job, what goes through your mind, and how did you know, or how did you decide to come to that decision?
For me, it was like I don't want to completely rule out the idea that I might like have a kid one day. So for me, like when that's factored in, the decision was made very easy because I'm like, there's no studies on what this does to adults, but there sure as hell aren't any studies on what this does to pregnant women. So I was like, yeah, I'd rather not be like a a test hamster for this or whatever. But and then once we kind of knew, like once I made a decision, like there's nothing that's worth it. I can always get another job. I was starting to see like, okay, I think I could start making the bulk of my income from like comedy and podcasting. I think it's possible. And like me and my fiance got to the point where we were like, yeah, probably one of us will lose our job over this. And it was just kind of like this waiting game of, the mandates were up but also time was kind of running out. Like it felt like they were going to like let up on it sooner or later. And it just was like kind of I could tell that New York, especially New York City, was like really pushing it for as hard as they could. It almost like was this sense like, yeah, if we can just get everybody jabbed until this, it was like this corporate sort of collective pressure of like, yep, we're all doing this. And, you hear people, especially comedians, using their fake cards. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. It's about the principle, because like you might be able to like fake card your way through this pandemic, but I don't think most people see it. Okay, well then what about 2 pandemics from now when we're getting chipped or we're getting thrown into trains or, we're literally being held down and like inserted with something.
Well,
sexual jokes aside.
It's not that far off. But now, Chrissie, I know that you were not engaged the last time we did an interview, because if you were, I would have put that together. When did you get engaged?
Last June.
Congratulations. When is the big day? Or when are you getting married?
It is gonna be sometime between now and the fall. I'm just like not saying it because
you don't
want all of you to show up there.
I was gonna say, you don't want hecklers crashing the wedding. But Chrissie, so this is the question. Now you're having this revelation, starts with Trump, sort of it's not a political shift. I think it's rather just a intellectual shift, but you're in the industry of stand-up comedy. And I always say, like, high school never ends, it just gets bigger. There's cliques in comedy. Is there not?
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
How does it work when you now see yourself working your way to the outs of the inner clique and then into the outer clique that doesn't necessarily control the purse strings or any of the strings in the industry?
That's exactly it. You work your first few years in stand-up, you're like, oh, okay, I see who's booking the late night shows. It's like the normal trajectory is like open mics to showcases to you get on a late night show like Colbert. It used to be Letterman and Leno, and then you'd be kind of set. Maybe you'd make your way to a sitcom or something, or an HBO Comedy Central special. But now, I mean, when I started, which was like 13 years ago, the path was sort of like, yeah, like open mics, showcases, late night spot, some kind of a special, maybe a sitcom, maybe you kind of get into commercials. Like a lot of the improv people I would see in commercials. And I think it's harder to make a living in improv unless you're like TJ and Dave, which are the guys you would see in the Sonic commercials all the time. Like they can do a full-blown improvised play as good as anything you could see in New York City. Like I saw them perform a couple times at the Barrow Street Theater. Ridiculously talented improvisers. Most people are like not at that level. And it's so you go, okay, these are who I have to impress. These are who I have to get in with. These are the people I have to be, I have to do FaceTime at these clubs or at these shows and get to know these people. So much of it is networking because you could be really talented, but if the right people don't like you, you're not going to get anywhere. So I just spent, I feel like the first maybe like, I guess, I don't know, 6 years of doing stand-up, just trying to like, get better, of course, but so much of it is networking. To pretend that if you're just talented, things will happen for you is very naive. It's very much all about like who you know. And starting to feel like I was starting to sort of talk to the booker at Colbert, starting to put a set together, starting like in the initial stages of beginning to like record it and then send that set off. And then it's like a filing process of like, okay, these jokes have to go. Like anybody that you see on Colbert or any of these late night shows, like their set is so carefully like chopped up and put back together and edited, and it's not just like the raw version of anybody, because there's so much you can't say there, even on like networks, there's like things you can't. I was just on Newsmax and I said the word boner, and apparently you're not supposed to say that. I said what else did I say? I said erection, and then they're like, oh, and I was like, uh-oh. So there's just that's just TV for you. There's so much you can't say. And then it starts to, I think the pandemic was big. I remember I was in LA like March of 2020 doing a headlining show, and I was on Sam Tripoli's Tinfoil Hat podcast, and it's this conspiracy theory podcast. He's like, what do you want to talk about? I was like, I don't know, I guess aliens. Like I honestly wasn't the biggest conspiracy theory person. I just like thought he was really funny and was a fan and wanted to do his show. And just something about talking to Sam and being on there, and like he just put a few things into my ear, and then I had all of the pandemic to think about it, and it was that plus putting it together about fake news, and I just was like, it was like my mind was blown on so many things, and I just feel like I grew up in a couple of months, like just the weight of the truth about things going on in the world it can get dark, but it was a lot all at once. And then everything clicked and you're like, okay, do I want to be black pilled or white pilled? What do I do with this information? So the last couple of years has been the process of because you have your jokes, like your bank of jokes that you've been doing, whatever, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. But then there's like the person that you currently are today. And some people write at all different levels. So like now it's like really the process of like having my stand up and my stage presence and show matching up with and aligning with like who I am basically on a podcast or like my current, beliefs.
But I've had on Clifton Duncan was on. He's another a liberal Democrat actor who took the red pill. Still considers himself liberal, I think, but loathes the liberals. Tyler Fisher, who I don't know that he ever considered himself liberal, but is now like on the outs. And then once you get on the outs, I mean, first of all, is there a defining moment where you knew they're not inviting me back?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was 2018, and it was the height of the Me Too era, and I was in this ladies Facebook group, like this New York City ladies Facebook group, and I remember we would have lunches, brunches, clothing swaps, and I remember when they started to push out Michelle Wolf because she was getting very successful, and I was like, I wonder if it has to do with like the fact that she's blowing up or what. And then there'd be these women that would be like, Me Too is popping off. These women were like, oh, I was raped too. Like I was in this basement at this comedy club and I was drunk and someone took advantage of me. And then you hear story after story that sounds similarly. And I would start to be like, I don't know if it was so much that like these men are predators so much as you personally make horrible decisions. Like you are getting drunk and passing out in basements. Like that's probably not going to end in a good scenario, whether you're with like Bill Cosby or Flanders. I don't know, like from The Simpsons, like a really upstanding gentleman. That's the first person I could think of. And then I tweeted out this, which the aftermath of which told me that I was definitely out of the club. I tweeted out, like, if you have time to get raped, you're not doing enough spots, which was not well received by the female comedian community of New York. So I was thusly kicked out of the Facebook group.
Sorry, there's a Facebook group for comedians or for like women comedians
For
or
women comedians.
Okay.
There's a couple, but like there was the one big one.
And you get kicked out. I mean, it's so we're going to get into it a bit with the Dylan Mulvaney joke, but you get kicked out for a joke because the joke, I guess, was too edgy for the milieu of stand-up comedy, which is about edginess. And by the way, just talking about, at the risk of getting canceled myself, which I don't have an employer. I don't know if you've read the Rudy Giuliani lawsuit of the woman suing Rudy Giuliani for sexual assault.
God, no, I haven't.
Oh, so well, she alleges in the lawsuit that she was never a big drinker. Giuliani's drinking scotch all the time. But there's one allegation where she alleges they were drinking Bloody Marys as of the morning. And they both obviously were very drunk all day long. Rudy Giuliani, who was probably just as drunk as her, if maybe more so, who knows, compared, was drunk, had sex with her. She had sex with him. And then she says, well, he assaulted me and I was drunk, so I could not have consented. And I'm just like, I'm looking at that. I'm saying,
girl,
that is
you
a
got
fascinating...
yourself drunk. You know what I mean? Like, you consented to the drinking.
But it's a fascinating thing to say, like, well, he was drunk and therefore he assaulted me, and I was drunk, therefore I could not have consented. But if she couldn't consent to the sex, then neither could he. So it's just a perspective.
Don't they cancel each other out? Right.
I don't know. So you make this joke, however, and it doesn't go over well with the female comedians in your Facebook comedian group.
Not even
and
like
you
I'm
get
saying
muted.
people deserve to get raped. Of course, that's not. It's a joke about taking responsibility and making good choices and like growing up and just not conducting yourself like a hot mess. And I just kind of me realizing like, hey, like I find the busier I am, the less that I am in situations where bad things can happen to me. Like if you go, oh, I'm going to do 5 mics today instead of like I'm going to do 1. And then get drunk and see what happens. Like, which kind of a night do you think is going to end in maybe some shenanigans? That's all I was saying. But like,
well, first of all, generally speaking, even the offensive, edgy humor doesn't need to be explained. And most often, the edgy humor doesn't get you yeeted. But like, when did political correctness begin dictating the parameters of comedy?
It felt like 2018 for me because there was just a few things in a row that was like, oh, wow. I was like just making jokes and like the backlash was very harsh. Like there was a girl, this like liberal comic. She had better credits than me, which is why people went to her side because I like didn't have as big of a following. And she was on a show on Compound Media where she stormed off the show because they were talking about Indian like cultural, what's it called? Where you dress like
cultural appropriation.
Cultural appropriation of Halloween costumes. That's what we're talking about, like Indian Halloween costumes. She got really offended and stormed off. And then I came in the next day in a wig, like parroting her, being like, "Oh, I'm Kate. I just forgot my jacket." And then what was supposed to be just a bit part turned into like them inviting me on the desk, and I'm doing this whole character of this woman, this like offended, woke snowflake type, feminist. And then this girl, Kate, messaging me, oh, are you making fun of me? Are you, I saw a screenshot. Again, people aren't paying for Compound Media. It's a subscriber network. So people just see screenshots of me in a wig. And they go, oh my God, you're making fun of Kate. You're such a horrible person. I'm like, no, I'm just doing a parody. Like it was no big deal. And then Kate had told me like, somebody had told me that they wanted to stick a railroad spike in my butt or something like that. And I wrote to her, where would someone get a railroad spike in 2018?
Off a railroad, but that's federal property.
A museum.
That'll get you stuck in jail quickly.
And then so after this conversation, I think she was posting like, oh, somebody said they want to rape me with a railroad spike or something, which is obviously everything's an exaggeration because this girl wants to be a victim. And then the next day on Compound, I went on wrapped in tinfoil as a railroad spike. This was another character I did, but I was an anti-rape railroad spike. And I had this voice. It was so stupid. It was corny, but I'm like, I'm Spike. I don't want to be in any woman's keister. I got a rail at home and 6 little spikes I really care about. Like, I don't want to be in any woman's butt. Like, I was this anti-rape railroad spike. But sure enough, what happens? People don't subscribe to the network. They don't see the episode. But what they do is take a screenshot of me in a spike costume that gets posted. Oh, look at Chrissie. She's being a raping railroad spike. Let's cancel her. She's making fun of rape. She's making fun of your rape threat. And then it got blown out of proportion. All these women went to her side because she had the better credits, and they probably thought, well, this woman's in a better position to help me in my career because she's already been on Comedy Central or whatever. And I already don't have the wrong, like, I have the wrong political opinions. Plus she was like bigger. So mostly the support went to her, and people, at face value go, oh, that's horrible. But if you watch the episodes, you go, oh, this is just like a dumb joke. Like, she's clearly not advocating for harm here.
Well, to quote Scott Adams, he says, until you've been smeared by the media, you don't understand what it feels like. But that is a pretty damn good example as to understanding it and then it changing your perspective going forward.
Yeah.
Chrissie, it's a very interesting thing. Hold on. Let me just bring this up. I have actually never seen a Wikipedia page that doesn't have a bloody birth date. How old are you, Chrissie?
Oh, you never ask a lady her age.
I'm asking that. I want to break news. I want Wikipedia to be updated after this episode to say Chrissie finally reveals her age. Are you under 30? You can't be under 30. You can't be because you're doing something in 2012. So you'd have to be 34.
I'll take it.
Okay, fine. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to get
Wikipedia, whatever you like.
What is what's the first movie that you remember seeing?
In theaters or just
in theaters? Yes.
It's a really good question. I can tell you the first concert I saw.
Okay, go for it.
Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill.
All right, I got your age. We can move on now.
No,
done. Close enough. I can pinpoint.
I mean, what I meant to say was Taylor Swift.
My first rock concert was Rolling Stones' Steel Wheels tour, and somebody blew marijuana in my face, and I had no idea what it was. And then he said, "We're gonna get high tonight." I was with my parents' best friends because I guess my parents didn't take me to shows. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Done. Okay. But no, Chrissie. Like, jokes aside, I couldn't even play this. I could have played it on YouTube. I didn't not play it on YouTube. I didn't want to start with the punch. When I ask you, like, when politics ruined comedy, and you're sort of you can pinpoint it to 2018. I'm just trying to think of when Saturday Night Live stopped being funny. This was big news. This was big news recently. Let's just play this out here so you can explain what happened. I've got so many questions.
365 days. What? Like, why has it been a year of girlhood and still no tits? That's day one.
Naughty humor coming.
If I'm transitioning to a dude,
Morning.
one, I'm getting a cock, and I'm getting the biggest one you can find. Like, go into the back room.
I can't laugh because it'll.
Get me something black, okay? I have something to prove here.
Okay, the joke is coming. No, the incident is coming.
Because he's a man. Yeah, he can go tomorrow. Uh-oh. We have one of those. I figured. No, it's all good. We can all have different beliefs. It's okay. Some of us can believe in reality and some of us can't. Coexist. This is America. We should have
coexist a bumper sticker.
It's all good. Binary, we didn't have bisexual, we didn't have as many labels. It was just like, oh, you're not bisexual, you're just fun at parties.
It's okay.
She's just a good time.
I've always felt that way.
Now they're leaving.
Yeah.
Now they're leaving.
Just like
Now they're leaving. Oh, pause it. This woman who gets up first is wearing pink S&M equipment over her clothing. That gives
hold on.
you a sense.
Is it a joke or was it real pink S&M clothing?
Yes. She's wearing a strap contraption. She's wearing a system of pulleys and levers. Look at that.
Okay.
There was like
in a million years I would know
a collar. There was a system of levers. It was
now
we're
going to get into your jokes that some people said were not nice. We'll get to all of this.
Let in some people I shouldn't have. I blended some people because they were real athletic. You know what I mean? I saw potential.
I don't know.
blended some
I gotta say, I don't know how you have set aside audacity, whatever. I don't know how you have the comedic courage to do this. I mean, I in a million years, look, we all have bad thoughts, and then you formulate them into comedy. But okay,
people just because they were Puerto Rican.
now they're leaving.
I'm trying to do a joke. I'm like, I see them leaving. I see them leaving because there was the one outburst. No, she's a woman. She's a woman. And then that was it. No one said anything else. And I see them getting up and leaving. And I actually see the tables surrounding them, looking over at them. But I'm like, okay, this only has the attention of like 2 or 3 tables. That's not worth, it's not worth commenting on because the whole room is not seeing this. So I was like, I'm just going to keep going with this bit. And, this table in front here with like the girl with the black hair and the kind of bald guy, they were looking over at them. They felt tense to me, but it's like not worth stopping my bit to be like, oh, you're leaving now. I'm like, all right, people leave. Like, you know what I mean? You're all doing this like assessment very quickly in your head, like what's worth it, what's not. Like, don't, you know what I mean? Like, look, it's not the first time I've walked people. It's not the last time I've walked people. Alex Stein had walked a table the day before, and I was making fun of him for it. Like, in fact, this table that Alex Stein walked, I think they were heard outside saying, the woman was saying to the man, like, "Do you think that's funny? Do you really think that was funny?" And the guy was like, "Yeah." Like he didn't want to leave.
We're going to get into the absurdity of going to what time of day is this? Is this late night or?
This was the late show.
Yeah, okay.
This was the, I think, 9:30 show.
You go to late night, late-ish stand-up comedy to get offended. But we'll finish this 45 seconds.
This was the 9:30 show. So this is like a 9:30 to 11 o'clock show.
Okay, here, listen to this.
Presented in the pamphlet, sir. You can't, right? Because you see yourself coming here. Fuck the transphobe! Is that the best you can do?
Oh, I see. She screamed on the way out. Okay.
She screamed when she was at the door.
Okay, now I understand.
Which is the most cowardly thing you can do. Not that I wanted them to rush the stage, and I shouldn't have said that. Is that the best you can do? Because these women were all much bigger than me. They could have knocked me over. Like I had 4 linebackers sitting at the table. I don't know why I had to test them.
I got questions about that. Okay, hold on.
He gets home safe. I don't want those women to get harpooned in the neck on their way to their cars. I'm worried about their safety. There's poachers out there. They're gonna want their tusks. They were fat though, and that did help.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Chrissie, I have so many questions about this because people don't understand. I mean, people don't appreciate. You're doing a stand-up bit. I don't go to a lot of stand-up, but I like going. And when people are out there in the crowd, not heckling even, but just distracting the comedian, it's a performance, and you get distracted. And then the question is, you get distracted. Do you decide to pivot and then make an event, make the bit out of the distraction, or just try to ignore the distraction and carry on? And at some point you make a decision. When she's out the door and she says, fuck you, transphobe, you're like, okay, do I ignore that and continue on with my bit? I can't. That is a moment-shattering event.
I can't finish that joke. I had another couple of tags on that joke. It's like, I have to acknowledge it. It's very loud. Everyone heard it. So it's like, I'm not finishing this joke. That's done. And it's like, this is very loud and obnoxious and everyone in the room heard it. So it's like, you have to acknowledge anything. It's something everyone in the room can hear it, or it's like a drink falls or a dish breaks or someone falls or someone gets up to go to the bathroom and everyone can see. Like, those are things that I feel like you have to acknowledge because it's happening in the room and everyone can see it.
Now here's the thing. I'm going to bring up this comment from the Rumble Rants because I think it's on point. Hold on, let me see. Bring it up here. It says, Chrissie is the only female comedian I know that stood on her principles prior to it being trendy. She works hard and she deserves all the success and praise she's receiving. Now, we're going to get there, actually. Stop screen now. I'll bring that back. But you got to make a decision now. You're going to roast these people, and it's a risk because if you roast someone and it doesn't work, then you look bad as a comedian. And you roasted them, and you go to the fat joke, and it's sort of
course you have to.
Well, I mean, so under certain circumstances when it's not quite so striking as far as an element of look, it was striking.
I had to acknowledge the elephants in the room.
Okay, see, I would laugh in as much as I'd laugh at a stand-up comedy show, but I would not make those jokes. Okay. Is there a part of you that feels bad about what?
Nope. No, not as soon as you interrupt my show, you mess up my joke, you think your opinion, first of all, she corrected like this male audience member, this grown-ass man. You think you're gonna change the mind of a grown-ass man sitting in a Dallas comedy show? You think it's ultimately heckling is so the most selfish thing you could do next to trying to cancel somebody's show. You're saying that your opinion is more important and more better than this guy who's you're right. And your opinion is more important than everybody in the room who's laughing and enjoying themselves. So you go in that moment, wow, let's say even 60% of the audience was enjoying me at that time. And let's say some were quiet and, some people are quiet laughers. Maybe people were neutral looking at their phone, fingering their date, who knows? But like her in that moment goes, you know what? But my opinion is right. So I need to interrupt this show, interrupt this joke. I have to let this man and this woman, the woman that I literally paid money to hear her opinion tonight. No, I'm going to interrupt and let everybody know that I'm right. And this man in the crowd and this woman performing are wrong. And it's so selfish. And she did it in a shitty way. It's not like you meet after the show, like, hey, I'm trans. I didn't really like that joke. It's not like, hey, it sends you an email after the fact going, hey, like I was at your show. Like I was a little offended, because I've gotten those emails where people are write me and then say that they're offended. No, she had to interrupt what I was doing to let to like grandstand. And then like, she had to be the star for a second. She had to be like I'm the most moral, most right, smartest, most evolved person in here, because I'm taking a stand against this person. It's like, it's so selfish. And like, once you do that, I go, oh, my blood starts. It's a combination of like your blood is boiling. Like you're fucking up my joke for the most basic heckle, for the most cowardly interaction. You don't even have a witty retort. You're not even going to like try to attack me. You're not going to throw anything, a sandwich or a drink in my head. Like, how boring to just call me a transphobe as you're out the door. You're putting in the least in terms of heckling. And it's like, my blood is boiling, but also my heart is beating so fast, because you're like, there is a chance these whales could attack me. Like and there was a guy in the front that was saying, I was on safari once. You got to ride. You have to run side to side when you're being chased by a hippo. This is literally what the guy said after they walked out of the room. I was like laughing my balls off. I was like, okay, if they came running towards the stage, I would just run side to side out of the room. And then you guys would have to like,
it's an urban legend. They say the same thing down in Florida. To outrun an alligator, you run zigzag. You don't. First of all, you just run faster than the person next to you, and you'll be fine. Bada bing, bada boom. That's why I'm not in stand-up. But so I like the idea, the observation. It's selfish. It's not like, the comedian says, I'm going to ask some questions and then make fun, where they've made the individual the object of the joke, or the, part of the joke. And even then, when the person takes it a little too far and then starts making the stand-up show about them and not about the comedian, even the audience starts to go, okay, dude, chill out and back off. They do this. They make a scene. You are obviously, I say, trained as a comedian. You could, on the one hand, either fear these things or revel in them, because you can turn it into what it has been turned into, which is, look, from a cynical perspective, like the greatest marketing ever, but also, showing your talent as a comedian, to have your stand-up bit and then to improv. The blowback you got, did you find you got blowback, or you got feedback and support for this? I noticed one person,
a mix of both, way more support than blowback. Although today I did have a drag queen in my DMs. Like, I'm like, wow, like how viral this has gotten for a drag queen to be like, going back and forth with me on Twitter. I'm like, it's certainly, and like, I think Twitter has thwarted it. Not like I'm going to complain about like 3 million views on a video on Twitter, but like, they have completely thwarted. Like, it hasn't gotten any more views in a couple days. It's been a mix, way more positive than negative. I was surprised at first at how viral this went, because this seems like a very typical heckler moment. Like, I assume most comedians are having a moment like this every couple of months, and like, I could be way busier than I am. Like, I could be doing way more dates. Like, somebody like Kreischer or Mark Norman, or even like Jim Norton, or like any of these household names that are performing like without fail every single weekend and doing like many dates. Like, I assume that this is happening to everybody all the time. And like, for me, this was a very basic heckle. And but like, I've never like, I went at her like more than I probably have anybody else, because I was just so fucking pissed that she stepped on my punchline. And and then just it feels like such a risk because I'm like, I have nothing prepared for how to deal with a heckler. I'm literally digging deep into my soul. I'm like, okay, I guess all I'm bringing up are dad jokes. Like I'm just one after the other. I'm like, well, I guess I'm making another fat joke. Like it's coming out while you're thinking of it. And again, everything you're saying, you're like, this could completely bomb or this could be kind of funny. Let's hope for kind of funny. And what just kept coming out was just many fat jokes of all time. And then after the show was over, I went to the table and my merch table was like the shirts were all like not folded nicely, like I had left them. They were all kind of fucked up looking. I'm like, what happened to the? And then the guy working the door was like, oh yeah, they pushed all your shirts off the table. And that's when I did the tweet, like they stampeded my merch table. And I was like, what? Were they upset that I didn't carry a 3X? Like what? Why knock over someone's merch? Like their shirts.
No, but I will never understand the rationale of someone who goes to a stand-up comedy club, which is going to be raunchy, offensive humor, to get offended. It would be like me as a young Jewish boy going to a neo-Nazi concert and then complaining about what I hear. Say, excuse me, guys, would you mind toning that down? Like you go to the event knowing what it is. If it's not edgy, if it's not raunchy, if it's not insulting to somebody, it's not funny. But this is the question now, Chrissie. Like you're living in a world. I don't know if we're on the rebound side of the political correctness. I have a feeling we are. What is it like doing the live comedy tour now or doing live shows now where you, on the one hand, are dealing with people who want to laugh and who want to laugh at the absurdity of our reality. But on the other hand, the people who are so stuck in the reality that they'll get upset if you actually make a joke about Dylan Mulvaney, who has a penis, not being a woman. Like,
right.
How
And
do you
that whole
navigate that?
thing was a riff. Like I hadn't planned to do any Dylan Mulvaney jokes at all. Like I had like a couple of trans jokes that I do that are like shorter, but since my friend Keanu Thompson, who was the host, that was the joke the whole tour, like from Vegas to Dallas, like that she kind of looks like Dylan Mulvaney, that people on Fremont Street were asking her what day of girlhood she was on. Like these were, when you go on like a mini tour or whatever, or do shows with the same people, like I end up making jokes about the people I'm with just because, like Lila Hart, who's 4'6", she has spina bifida. I've done a lot of shows with her. I'll oftentimes be like, oh yeah, just ignore your Amber Alerts. Those are for Lila. She's here with us. She's safe. Like you end up just making jokes about the people that you're doing shows with. Like same thing with like Alex Stein. Like there's so many things to like make fun of about him too. And that was one of the jokes, is that like Keanu kind of looks like Dylan and I'm riffing about Dylan and I'm kind of just like, yeah, why hasn't she gotten tits? Like what, she's had all the time in the world, and all the resources, access to the best doctors, all the money. You really want to be a woman? Like tits, that's right away. Like you, like what's taking so long? And no seeming interest to get anything done. And I've been saying this whole time, I'm like, Dylan could tomorrow wake up and be like, I guess I'm going back to it. I'm just going to be a dude with a tight face now. Like Dylan
he's just
has
gonna
not,
go back.
he's not all in,
No,
he's
he can go back to being a gay male, which is what this typically was before this whole thing took over. It's like, if you're a gay male, you're in the wrong body and you must be trans. He'll have that luxury. And then other people, like the people I've had on the show, will not have that luxury because they've taken the step that cannot be untaken. The tour or the show, the club that you're at, like, is there now on the live comedy scene a dichotomy between, let's just say, like the Joe Rogan-esque type clubs and the ones where you can't make certain joke type clubs?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of part of the reason why I don't have more gigs, is because I don't have any management or any agents. And like, that's the way it works, is like, let's say somebody has I don't know who everyone's represented by, but you can look it up. It's any mainstream comic, like has their representation on their website or whatever. So let's say you have like a household name, like, I don't know, Bert Kreischer, but he also represents somebody smaller, maybe that is on my level. The way that these agents and managers will work, be like, well, we'll book you, they'll talk to whatever, Flappers or something. Okay, well, they definitely want Bert, or they want this household name these weekends. All right, well, let's do that. And let's get our smaller people in too, because the management always wants to book all of their clients. But that's how these smaller comics like they're helped to get into these clubs. Do you know what I mean? Like, because they'll rep the much bigger people and then they'll get their smaller people their dates too, because the clubs want to work with the very big people and they want to work with the esteemed, like management companies. But like, nobody will touch me. I voted for Trump. I was at January 6th. Like, I am seen as part of the alt-right. So nobody will represent me. So like every show I get is just from writing to these clubs being like, I have this much following, I have this is my press kit, this is how many listens I get on my podcast, things like that. Like, here's how well I've done in similar markets. I look at YouTube analytics. I go, okay, where do most of my fans seem to be living? And then I target those areas. Like, I can't just perform anywhere. And then I see all these requests like, come here. How come you haven't come here? And then it's people like listing these mainstream clubs. I'm like, these places like, and I don't want to say, don't like never say never, but like these places won't have me. And I was just talking to Tyler Fisher about this, like literally the other day. Tyler was like, I'm at the Comedy Cellar in New York City, like many nights, like most nights. Sometimes I close, I crush. Still, nobody will touch me. He's like, I don't understand. Like, aren't the cultural tides turning in the favor of comedians like you and I? It still feels like we're just the untouchables. Like, aren't we the cash cows? He was saying to me. I'm like, it doesn't feel like that, because it feels like these management companies are leftist, and they don't. It seems like they don't want to manage someone who doesn't like have the same political. And also, like, comedy and Hollywood are still very intertwined, especially when you get into like movies, commercials, and Hollywood is super left. And so I think a lot of these comedy management companies are also very left, because that's who they eventually want to push into like deals and, Madison Square Garden and like, getting on certain like movies and stuff like that. And I just think like politically it's still, or who knows, or maybe I'm just not that funny and no one wants to rep me for that reason, but it just feels like I have a stink on me, which is fine. And I embrace, and I wouldn't want it any other way, because this is who I truly am and how I truly feel. And I'd so much rather be doing it this way and have my few fans that are ride or die than be a sellout, than get vaxxed, you know what I mean? Or like run around with a fake vax card, or pretend I thought the lockdowns were great, just to get booked at a few more gigs a year. Like, fuck that. I couldn't sleep at night.
For those who don't understand the economy of stand-up comedy, like, where is, for a typical comedian, the best or the most lucrative venue, the path, I guess? Is it doing the shows? Do those pay, or do even those who do the shows, they do that to promote their stuff independently? How does it work in
like
the field?
For me, I probably make like most of my so when I lost my job, like for me the podcasting kind of like made up for the money that I lost from not having like a day job. And comedy stand up for me, live stand up is just like a percentage of my income. But it's still mostly it's what I make from doing like my like compound media show, YouTube, like all of the things. And if I get a random, sponsor for that, if that like, I mean, I'm sure I could be booking more stand up. And that's the thing, is I don't know how the really successful people do it. I guess it depends if you sell out a room and you're there Thursday through Sunday and you do like 2 shows a day. I mean, it's hard to know like what the successful people are making, because I'm just like not there yet.
Well, I'm just trying to think of like how it happens. Is one sort of like advertising that leads to other more lucrative sponsorships or gigs, or is the summit, the pinnacle, the stand-up show? And I was at the Reawaken tour where I saw Alex Stein, and Jim Brewer was doing a bit in front of the entire crowd.
I love Jim.
He's amazing. But then I'm thinking like, okay, I don't know. I don't know if he was paid. I don't know anything of how it works. I presume he was, but it's a big room. There's a lot of people there. But Jim Brewer is sort of established, old time, an established comedian who's now sort of, I don't say fallen off the rails, but definitely thinks January 6th was exactly what it was. Thinks Russiagate was exactly what it was. Thinks the jab is exactly what it is. And it might be a totally different world for him than someone who's coming up in this new world now, where you don't have that not that network, but that root structure system. On the comedy tour itself, is there a blossoming right wing? And I call it right wing. I'm just going to call it the other. You got your left wing, and then you got your all inclusive. Is there a blossoming all inclusive, or is it even from a club perspective, not yet a blossoming, industry?
It's so tricky, because like I've definitely been labeled a right-wing comedian, even though if you were to look at a typical stand-up set, like it's not particularly I think a lot of my jokes are still like from the position of like just being a fucking like white chick in America. I don't know. Like I have jokes about getting waxed. I have jokes about my fiance. I have jokes about dating somebody with a kid. I have jokes about like like different jobs I've had and just relationships, you know, which had I been a different person in different packaging, you'd be like, oh, this is like liberal. This is like a liberal chick stand-up comedy. But like over the last few years, I have noticed like, yeah, I am talking more about the lockdowns and the Rona. And depending on what city I'm in, I'll comment on like whatever is going on in that city or whoever's running it or, you know, fucking it up, that sort of thing. But I find like when I'll take a risk and say like stuff that's like more based on stage and then that gets good feedback. It just emboldens me to like lean harder in that direction. And I think over the last couple of years, I have become much braver. Like ever since I put out this album, I was like, I'm going to call my album Live from January 6th. And like half of it is about January 6th. The other half is just jokes I've had over the years. And I'm like, once I sort of decided, like, I guess this is like, I'm branding myself with it. This is funny. Why not? I was there. Bring it on. Like, I am trying to like get it out to the world that the day was not as bad as everyone says it was. It was fun. It was chill. You know, it's been reported unfairly. I have become like more brave about like just speaking. And sometimes this is what I was saying before. Like sometimes comedy is all about just saying the honest thing in the moment. You don't even necessarily need a punchline. Sometimes you just get up there, and that's what this Dylan Heckler moment was all about. Like I was just saying true things. I was just saying no because he's a man. Some of us believe in reality and some of us don't. Not particularly clever, not particularly edgy in my opinion. Like these are the comments that are in most of our Twitter feeds every day. But just to say it out loud, it's sometimes this you could feel it's like, well, this is why we need comedy because it's like a pressure release. It's like, I'm not crazy. Okay. Somebody else thinks this too. Wow. Okay. This is all right. Good. I'm not the only one who thinks this. All right. Because the left, they want to control us at our schools, at our jobs. These women were trying to treat this comedy club like their corporate DEI training. You know, maybe they're teachers, maybe they work in HR. Like if I were to take a guess, yeah, I would say like maybe HR, or maybe they're like preschool teachers. I don't know. Maybe they're just like getting ready to come out to their students on Monday. Who knows? But these women that feel the type of heckler, you can like over the years, you start to figure out like their deal. Just like I can guess an Indian man in the audience has a job in IT, and 9 times out of 10, I'm right, you know? And these women, they live with these hecklers, like in their life, they're never wrong. They're never challenged. But at the comedy club, they also want to be in control and have their reality be the reality that everybody, I guess, bends the knee to. And that's the thing, is the comedy club is where you should be laughing at things that would get you fired from your job. You should be saying things at a comedy club that would get you fired from your job. You should be saying side comments to your buddy at the table that would get you, because this is all we have left. It's our release. Like it's why people watch sports. It's why people play video games. It's like we need that escape. And with comedy, it's almost like people are looking for like just honesty, because there's propaganda everywhere in our phones, on our TVs, and the radio. And it's like the comedy club feels like the only place where you can just hear something real.
Well, it's the whole thing. Like if something is detached from reality, it's not funny. Like there has to be an element of truth in it. And I think Chappelle has shown that the comedians of today are really the jesters of the past, or the modern day philosophers, where they have to bring up the absurdity of the times for the people to understand. Of course, in the olden days, it was always the jesters that would get executed by the king if they went one step too far. But without getting there, I'm gonna give you. I don't know if you've seen this video. Speaking of, like just denying reality and the absurdity of life. Look at this.
I'm saying statistics, ma'am. I'm saying statistics.
I mean, if
wow, I feel bad for these people.
I say,
how are you gonna go through life if you can't handle like someone talking shit from behind a fence? You know, like if you're gonna react at an 11 to that, like how are you gonna react when there's actual problems in your life, when your mom dies, when you lose your job? Like
it is.
I don't know. There's no coping skills.
It is the old expression. If you're not liberal when you're young, you have no heart, and if you're not conservative when you're old, you have no brain. But Chrissie. Okay, so hold on because we're going to run out of time. I know you got a heart out. The other thing that you made the news for, Chrissie, and I'm still trying to piece together this story. Was it a troll from the day one? Was it a troll from minute one that you masterfully exploited? Or, and I'm saying this, where's the article? Or Was it legitimately embarrassing in the sense?
It was. It really was.
Because I'm sorry, and I don't mean that. I don't mean to call you a baby if you found it
No,
legitimately
call me
embarrassing.
a baby.
I just have no idea what the hell is going on here. This is the after picture, I think, from what I understand, not
Yes.
the before picture. So
This
you
is
get
the
on. You're
after.
flying to Vegas for the event where the heckling event, right? That's where the heckling occurred.
Yes,
No.
this was on the flight from Vegas to Dallas. This is before any of the heckler moments happened. We had the Friday Night Tights Geeks and Gamers meetup in Vegas. Then we had I was headlining at the Space, and I had Keanu and Lila Hart on for that one too. And we were staying at the Rio, which is an old fabulous hotel in Vegas.
So they used to have the WSOP there until they
Oh,
no
it's
longer
so
did.
I love an old hotel. I don't like the nice hotels. I'd rather do Fremont Street and like drink a glass of gin at a smoky bar. And so we went to this store at the Rio, which like, everyone's boomer mom would love it. Like everything there is sparkly, everything's covered in rhinestones. And I'm like, I love this store. I bought boots. I bought that whole outfit there. It's basically like a sheer cover-up outfit. And I'm wearing a sparkly bathing suit under it. And me and Keanu are both like, let's just wear these fabulous outfits on the plane. Why not? Like, let's just continue the Vegas as long as possible. And we check our bags at the curb, no issue from that American Airlines employee. I don't go through the machines because my mom died of cancer, and I'm like weird about the airport machines. So I had to do the pat down, and I got a lovely pat down by a lovely butch woman. She had no problem with my outfit. She did the behind the hands. She didn't linger. She was very professional, but she didn't say, "Hey, you're gonna have to change your pants." So we passed through multiple employees that like no one said anything about our outfits. We're at a bar. We go, oh shit, it's about 15 minutes before our flight's taking off. We kind of zoom over. We're among the last to get on. All of a sudden, I feel a tap on my shoulder. I go, this is it. I'm getting taken away for January 6th. Goodbye, Keanu. Finish the tour without me. I go, they got me. And he's like, excuse me, ma'am, you have to change your pants. And I was like, what?
The pants are just skin tight down. They're just pants.
They're okay. They're not like, I'm not like a sausage in there. They're fitted. They're like stretchy pants that are a little sheer. But I was wearing a full brief, like bathing suit brief underneath.
But I'm just saying, like, did the pants have the print of a woman's vagina on it so that people thought you were naked? So, like, they're just pants.
No, I didn't have an exposed asshole out or anything. Keanu is the one who was naked from the waist down because her underwear was sewn into her skirt. And so all of her luggage is checked away. I go, I hear you have to change your pants. I immediately snap into action because I don't want to miss this flight. We have to literally drive in the morning from Dallas to Austin. Like I have to be on InfoWars. So I'm like, I can't miss that. So I'm opening up my suitcase. I grab shorts out and then Keanu comes over. Is everything okay? The guy goes, yeah, you too. Points at her and goes, you too. You have to change your pants too. And she's like, what? And I'm like, oh God. And I throw the pair of shorts at her too. I like literally grab these two pairs of shorts and all of a sudden I'm just dropping trow at the gate, putting these shorts on because we can't miss this flight. We can't stay in Vegas. We have all these plans. We have all these appearances set. And I'm trying to block Keanu. And she's like, oh my God, the underwear is sewn into my skirt. And I'm just like, just go, 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 go. And so she's actually, her ass, everything is out. Like, I don't know who saw, but I'm sure the camera and the dude that had to told us to change. Nobody said, hey, take 5 minutes, go to the restroom. Nobody said, hey, we'll hold the flight. Nobody said, hey, go behind the desk.
I don't even understand the rationale behind it. So, but the bottom line is, it wasn't. You were not. What's the word? You were not creating this incident so that it would be a funny troll on the airlines. This was legit, like unexpected.
No, this was very unexpected. And I figured like we're coming from Vegas. We're wearing very Vegas-y outfits. Like how many probably actual prostitutes do they see every day wearing far worse? I just really thought we would be fine.
And you got an apology from American Airlines?
But kind of barely. It was like a sorry this happened to you email. They didn't offer anything. And I'm a gold member.
See,
I don't know if you knew that.
Well, now I know that when you tweeted out, is this how they treat people with the rewards clients? And I didn't know if that was. I don't know what's part of the joke and what's not. But holy crap!
Okay.
I mean, you're coming out of Vegas. It's like when I flew out of Vegas. When was I there recently? The people I saw dressed on the plane. I mean, okay, I could understand that. What you put yourselves into was even more revealing than what they must have.
Because he didn't even say, hey, here's what's wrong with your outfits. Here's what you should wear instead. I was like, I assume it's because my pants are a little sheer. But again, I'm wearing a full large black bikini bottom under it, like a bathing suit bottom. And again, no follow-up. He probably saw us changing, didn't think to stop us. He should have been like, oh my God, no, wait, no, of course I didn't mean here. Of course I meant go to no, nothing like that. They should have had a woman tell us to change our pants, because it's kind of creepy when a dude is like, change your pants.
No, but it's like the stories we've heard of, like people saying, take that hat off. It says, take your MAGA hat off, and I don't feel comfortable sitting next to you. I don't even understand how they ask you to do that, let alone coming out of Vegas. Chrissy, I don't want to hold you past your hard out time. Let me do one thing real quick, like go back to Rumble and just read these 2 Rumble rants. Chrissie Mayr is the funniest female comedian I've seen. Imagine how funny she would be if she was a man. Lord of the Ree.
I think about that every day.
That's not a bad joke, Lord of the Ree. And Matt G. Hammond says Chrissie Mayr is the best. Chrissy, so what do you have next on the horizon? Where can people find you? And what links are you going to send me right when we're done so that I can put them in the pinned comment?
I will be buying a strap-on to wear on my next flight. I will have a visible cock outline so that this doesn't happen again. Okay. I'm going to start saying I'm trans. You can't do this to me. I don't know. Maybe I'll just do like a lot of, I'll do blackface, and I'll just,
No, that's not empowerment. Racial crossover is not empowerment yet, but
I think I can be more easily, like I can do trans easier than I can do a different race. So I'm going to have a penis on me next time I fly somewhere. I will be in New Jersey July 8th at TIFF's in Morris Plains. I'm going to try to add a few more dates to the calendar for summer, but I will definitely be in Virginia August 9th, and then I'll be at Anime Matsuri in Houston in August. I think that convention is from the 10th to the 13th, and I'm headlining that weekend in Houston at the Secret Group on Friday, August 11th. So you guys can get tickets for all those shows now.
And the podcast, you still have, I don't even want to say the name of it. Is it still the same podcast?
The Chrissie Mayr podcast.
The last time we interviewed, it was the wet spot, and I
had that one too.
Okay. So you got the Chrissie Mayr podcast, the wet spot podcast. Are you on Rumble as well?
I am on Rumble. Yeah, I am on Rumble. Like everything sort of copies over to Rumble. That's how I have it set up.
Are you on Locals yet?
No, Locals is intimidating to me.
Okay, I'm gonna DM you afterwards. We're gonna figure that out real fast, because that's like that. Look, I say, honing comedy, getting ideas, practicing. I mean, I would imagine, I'm not in the industry, but that would be like an amazing place to do it. But
ooh, I'm intrigued for sure. And also Simpcast on my YouTube channel, Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Also, I will be doing a one-on-one interview with Dr. Peter McCullough, date to be determined. I should be firming that up in the next couple weeks.
Fantastic. All right. Chrissy, you stick around. We'll say our proper goodbyes. Oh, sorry. There was one more here. It says, for me, happy birthday, Viva. 23rd. I know, because I'm a week on, is it Monday or Tuesday? The 23rd of May. I'm turning 44 freaking years old.
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Yeah, sounds good.
So you're a Gemini or Taurus?
I am a Gemini.
Oh, that's way better.
That explains a lot. If anyone believes in that stuff, I'm not sure that I do, because all of those astrological descriptions are broad enough to include everybody and anybody for every given month.
Exactly what a Gemini would say. Classic.
Chrissy, thank you. Let's do this again. It's been phenomenal. Everyone in the chat, I'm going to end this, and Chrissy and I are going to say our proper goodbyes, but I'll put up the links where you can find Chrissy. Chrissy, thank you. We'll
thank you guys.
Stick around.
Hail
Everyone
to
else,
the chat.
peace out.